Hey guys, it's Diana here, and I am here to do the flounce top from Ellie and Mac, and I'm really excited. And I know I say that with every pattern, but I really am excited. I love pretty much I love every Ellie and Mac pattern, so I'm always excited, I guess. But we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I already cut out all my pieces, my sleeves, my front, my back, my yoke, my 2 yoke pieces, my 2 flounce pieces, and my neckband. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now I already put one of the sleeves on and then half of the other, and I'm gonna show you, and you just have to repeat that with the other side. So I have my sleeve, and the first thing I did is I marked the center at the top where my sleeve is, and then we have my shirt, my front piece, and here's where the arm is, where the armhole is. And what you're gonna do is you line up the right side of the sleeve where the top, where you marked it to be the middle, to the top of the sleeve, right sides together, and then pin it, and we go all the way down. This is a little bit different than what we do with other tops, but it's just as easy. It's just a little bit different. It's the different sort of set of steps, but it's the same thing. And with this top, we are sewing everything up until we put the flounce on. So we're gonna be doing sewing instead of serging. We're gonna do it on my sewing machine. So I put it at the top of this shoulder of the top, the front bodice, and then I went all the way down to the end of the sleeve. This is where the side of the bodice is, and so I'm gonna go ahead and sew that on first. And when I'm sewing that, I'm doing it up. I'm sorry, my machine is not threaded right. I'm sewing it looking up so that I can see the little piece of the shirt, the bodice, how it's like a little thin little piece. So I want to make sure I'm looking at that. So I want to make sure that I'm sewing that on correctly, because I don't want to sew it off that little piece because it's so small. So I want to make sure that it's getting sewn on right. So I'm going to do it face up so I can make sure that it is being sewn on right. Sorry, my fabric is rolling. Fabric never rolls, does it? Okay. Making sure I remove the pins. So we're sewing that on, making sure you're catching both fabrics just as you would when you're serging. And I'm going all the way down. Okay, now, so I did that one side, I did the front side. But you're going to do the same thing, attach it to the other side. So the other part of the sleeve, the bottom half of the sleeve is going to be attached right sides together to the back bodice. Same way that we did the front. And so I did all mine already. And here's my top. This is what it's supposed to look like now. The sleeves and the front and back are together. So let's put that one aside. And let's move on to our yoke and our flounce. Okay, so here's our flounce. Now, I already did one of the steps, but I'm going to show you what I did. So my flounce, when you cut it, it comes, when you cut it out, it's a circle. It's a full circle flounce, right? You cut 2 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. I went ahead and already cut one side. So I just cut it apart. So open up the circle. So now it looks like a donut. So I just cut it right there. And I did the same thing with the other one because you're cutting 2 out. The pattern calls for 2. So I did the same thing for the other one. So I opened them back up, and then I'll put it right sides on top of each other. So we're going to put them on top of each other. And I am going to close. I'm gonna sew them together just right here at the opening. I'm gonna sew them together. right sides together. I'm going to sew right here. I already did that on this side, but I'm going to do it on this side as well. Okay, and then what the pattern calls for is for a stay stitch, and that made me so confused before, and I thought it was basting them together, but it's not. It's just doing a stay stitch so that your flounce doesn't get all wobbly. But first, let me go ahead and open the seams up and steam them down. Make sure I did the other one. Open it up and steam it down. And then on the inside part of my flounce, the inside, now I made this big circle that's gonna go right here. So the inside part of my flounce, I'm going to stay stitch. And at this time too, if you want to do a 1/2 inch hem at the bottom of your flounce, you may do that to give it a finished look. I'm not going to, because I don't mind the look of the raw double brush poly, but you might, so you might want to do a 1/2 stitch, a 1/2 inch hem, so you can do that. But right now I'm going to do the stay stitch all the way around the inside of the flounce. Flounce is flipping on me. Oh, my machine was being moody. Okay, here we go. Let's do it again. Now, when I was doing it before, I got confused before the first time I did this, because this is my first time doing the stay stitch, but the first time I did it, I actually put them together. I don't know why. I basted them together, so that wasn't what I was supposed to do. It's just a single layer, and you're just doing the base stitch. Almost there. Stay stitch, sorry. And my machine keeps bringing it up. Almost there. Okay. So now I'm going to grab my flounce. Whoop. All tingly, and I'm gonna show you with my yoke. I'm gonna put my flounce a little bit over here, and we'll get back to that one. But here's my yoke, and I've got two sides. So this was my one side, and I put it face up, and here's my other piece, and I put it face down. And I already put together the one side, but we're gonna do that to the other side as well. So we're sewing it together at the raw edges. I'm going to do that to this side. Making sure I am actually stitching and not just... Okay. And I'm going to open that up and give it a steam. Okay, now my yoke is done. So I'm going to put my yoke down, and here's my flounce. And like I said, if you wanted to hem it, that's the step that you need to be doing right now. But I'm not hemming. Come on. Gets tangled up. Okay, I'm not hemming, so I'm going to go to the next step, which is I'm going to be flipping right sides together, the flounce on top of the yoke. So the top of the flounce goes on the bottom of the yoke. So first I'm going to meet those seams where the seams are, and pin. And then I'm going to go all the way, and I can go to the other side already. So I know where the other side is. Where's my other side? Here's my seam. Now, if you want, and this might help you, you can quarter it so that you know where the points are for where it's supposed to go. But what you're doing is you're just meeting the raw edges of the flounce and the yoke together. Raw edges of the flounce and the yoke together. And it should be, if you did the stay stitch right, it should be helping you create an even thing. And I didn't do my stay stitch right. Kind of came apart, but that's okay because I'm still able to, because this is double brush poly, and so it's pretty easy to stick together. But I know that some materials are not that easy to stick together and they tend to want to slip. So that's when the stay stitch would really come in handy. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing to the back. Sorry. My machine is, for some reason, is trying to, how do you call it? Gather. And maybe you can give me some pointers on that. I need to figure out why my machine is gathering my fabric when I'm not asking it to gather my fabric. I think maybe my tension wasn't right on there. Anyway, it's working. So we're putting it together. Raw edges. So again, the bottom of the yoke, the wider part of the yoke, to the smaller part of the flounce. If you get what I'm saying, like the top of the yoke to the bottom of the the bottom of the yoke to the top of the flounce. That's what it is. Almost there. One last one. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew them. I'm gonna baste them together. So this is what it looks like. Here's my inside, the small part of my yoke. Here's the long part of my yoke, and the small part of my flounce, and here's the wide part of my flounce. So we've pinned them together, right sides together, right sides together. And now I'm gonna baste them together. Making sure you catch, again, making sure you catch both. Ah. Here we go. I'm basting those two together. Like I said, you shouldn't have to pull. You might have to just pull a little bit, but not really. If it helps, like when you were doing the other step to quarter, you could have done that. I didn't. I just skipped that step because it, you know, it's really even. And my machine is still trying to do something it's not supposed to do. Okay, let's see if that helps. changing your settings. Most of the time it's not machine error, it's human, it's my error, operator error. Okay. I just want to make sure I do it nice and slowly so I catch both sides. I don't want to catch myself leaving a piece out of my flounce. I'm almost there. So right now I'm attaching the flounce and the yoke together. The flounce and the yoke together. And all I'm doing is I'm basting them together. I'm not actually attaching them, I'm basting them. Because I'm going to attach them to the shirt and together, so I don't want to have all these bulky seams. Almost there. Oops. So I'm just basting them on. And you want to make sure you're taking all the fabric out from underneath, like pulling and making sure you're not going over a different, like the bottom of your flounce is not getting caught in there. Okay, so now they're together. My yoke and my flounce are together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach it to my shirt. Oop. Sorry, I didn't mean to flip it out. Okay. Here it is. Come on. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this flounce to my top. So this edge right here, I'm going to attach it. And what I'm doing is I'll start at the shoulder. And so the edge that we basted together, that's going to go to the neck of the shirt. So I'm going to start at the shoulder seam, and I'm going to meet those seams of the shoulder seam of the shirt and the seam where the flounce and the flounce and yoke seam. So I've got to have three of them. The three of them are together. So I'm going all the way around, making sure all three of them are together. Making sure all three of them are together, because then I'm gonna sew those together. You know what I did? Let me put it in. Let me put it like this. If I fit it in here, that might be easier to do. Okay, so what I did is I poked my shirt through inside the flounce. I put it inside the flounce, so that way that will be easier for me to gauge it. So here we go. Right side of the shirt with what would be the right side of the yoke. Okay, so here's my yoke. Okay, so here's my yoke, and here's my flounce. I know this is kind of tricky to see. I'm trying to see if I can see it. And here's my right side of my yoke, and the right side of my yoke is going to be matching the right side of the fabric. And actually, so that means that the flounce is going to be sandwiched between them two, and the flounce is going to be facing up. So the wrong side of the flounce is going to be against the right side of the fabric. So the right side of the yoke, which is the smaller part, faces the right side of the bodice. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that. So that way that makes sense. Oops, sorry. My flounce is going everywhere. Okay. This is a fun shirt. Okay. It wants to open up for me. So you got to make sure you go all the way around the neck of the shirt. Still tucked in here. It's trying to come out. Okay. And we're going all the way around. Again, right side of the yoke with the right side of the neckline. The top, I mean. I'm almost there. I'm going all the way around. I have all my pins back here. I'm like, where are my pins? All the way around. And be careful that when you're attaching, you make sure that the shirt is not folding over. So that's why it looks like I have a pile of shirt on my lap, but it's because I'm looking at it really closely, making sure. Here's where my my sleeve is. So I want to make sure it's all even right there. Ow. I just pinned myself. I want to make sure it's even. Okay, I know I've said it a million times, so I want to say it one more time. Especially because I get confused easily, so I'm going to remind you. Right side of the fabric with right side of the yoke. So the flounce, it's sandwiched between the yoke and the shirt. Okay, almost there. This is, it's not hard. You just have to make sure that you, have the right sides in there. And that all the sides are touching. Because you don't want it, when you end up serging it, you don't want the part not to be there. That would not be good. Then you'd have to do it again. Don't worry, I've done it before. I'm just tearing this one stitch because my machine went down a little bit right there when I did the flounce, because I want both of my shirts to be showing. I don't want it to not catch when I serge it together, because this step you will serge together. From now on you will serge together. Okay, so now I went all the way around. Ow. And that is attached right here. It's attached to my shirt. The right side of the flounce with the right side of the shirt. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and serge, and make sure you're serging all three parts. Here we go. And not the sleeve. You're not serging the little sleeve, you're just serging the flounce and the top. And I know you see all these little pieces of thread everywhere. Don't worry, I'm going to take those out at the end. They were just my basting stitches that came through that are everywhere. But I will get rid of those. Those will go away. My basting stitches will go away. Almost there. Making sure when you get to the arm side, you can fold down that little sleeve, that cap sleeve. And making sure you remove all the pins while you're serging. There we go. as long as you know where you're putting what. It's not too bad. It looks, when I'm doing it, it looks complicated, but it really isn't. All right. My flounce and my yoke are on. There it is. It's on. And I'll be pulling all these threads out. You can see right there my basting. But I'll do that later. And so now we're going to go ahead and move on. And what we're going to do now is the sides. So now that that's done, we're going to open it up. Wrong sides. So here's the right side of my back bodice. And here's my front bodice. And I'm going to meet it right here at the armpit, armsicle area. And we're going to go all the way down. So here's my one side. And meet it all the way the shoulder where the sleeve is. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same on the other side, so that way when I'm serging, I can just do it both at the same time. Here's my arm. And my sleeve. Pins everywhere. And I know I've dropped a couple. So I'm just praying I don't step on them. I've done it before. But when I stepped on it, it was just very lightly. I didn't actually step on it, so. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and serge that seam. Serge it close. Guys, you know my excitement right now. I'm looking out the window and my mail lady just stopped at my door. I know what it is. It's fabric. So I'm so excited. I see the car, I see the little mail truck right there. And isn't it so exciting when they stop at your door? I can't wait to see. And you know what? This is bad. I don't know if this is you too, but I buy so much fabric that I don't even know. I can't remember what it is that I'm getting. So it's always like, it's like Christmas. I can't wait to see it. Okay. So I sewed up my sides. My sides are done. So now I'm pretty much done with my shirt. All I need to do now is my neckband. And this is a regular neckband. So we're putting it out. We're going to fold it right sides together. And we're going to sew the raw edges to make a continuous circle neckband deal. Then we're going to go ahead and quarter the neckband. Or actually, let me steam it. Fold it. Wrong sides together. Pin that where my seam is. Wrong sides together. And I'm going to steam it like a hot dog. Well, not steam it like a hot dog, but I don't steam hot dogs. I guess you could steam hot dogs. I don't know. Sorry, guys. Can you tell I'm hungry? It's getting ready for lunchtime. Okay, so I did that. Now I'm gonna quarter it, which means this is my one end where my pin is, where my seam is, and I'm gonna go out to one side. That's the middle. and I just kind of notch it, but then I'm going to put a pin so I can keep both of them together. And then I'm going to go face both of them, the two where I marked the middle and the other side, and I'm going to go out to one side, and then I'm going to go out to the other side. And I'm going to pin them together. And I'll use the pins when I'm going to be pinning it to the shirt. But the reason why I notch it is because then when I'm serging, I don't have to worry about the pin coming off and then I'm like, oh, where am I? Anyway, so to find the quarters of your neckband of your shirt, you will meet the two shoulder seams together and you will go forward, and that is your front point, your half point in the front. And then you will do the same thing and go back on the back, and that will be your middle and the back. Now the shoulder seams are not the quarter point, so you have to meet the front and the back together and go out to one side. It's just a little bit off of the shoulder, and then you do the same thing to the other side, out to the other side, and mark it. Now I'm going to attach my band in its right sides. So I want to make sure where my back is. And I'm going to put that back seam on the back because that's just what I like to do. And the right side of the band, raw side up to the right side of the shirt. And then I'm going to go to the next point that I marked and do the same thing. And then the next point, because now they will be even. You want to always quarter your bands, because if you don't, then you won't have even spots, and your band will be you'll be stretching it more on one side than the other, and it will be wiggly. Okay, so now that the band is on, I'm going to start at the back seam. And I'm going to serge that on. And I always serge my neckband with the band face up so that I know what I'm serging. And you need to make sure that you got all three of the fabrics in there. So what I do is I grab my pin, my next quarter, and grab it with 2 fingers and then pull it out and make sure that it's all together. Then I go to the next one. Make sure your other fabric is out of the way. And here we go. And my next one. Last one. And I'm basically done, you guys. This top is cool and it looks complicated, but it really isn't. There's my neckband. It's on. Nice. Alright, so now I'm going to steam that down. Next step is to hem. Go ahead and hem the sleeves and the bottom, and you're done. All done. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know below if you have any questions. If you're doing long sleeves with cuffs, you just keep going the long sleeve, and you do pretty much the same thing that you did with the neckband. You do it with the cuffs and attach them on, and that's it. Simple and cute. All right, you guys have a good rest of the day. Bye.